meeting of the Urbana City Council to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderpersons Chenoweth, Hayes,
Here.
Pat,
Present.
Roberts,
Present.
Whalen,
Here.
Wyman, Mayor Satterthwaite.
Here. We have a quorum. First item on our agenda this evening is the annual tax levy ordinance of the City of Urbana, Illinois for the year beginning July 1, 2004, ending June 3rd, 2005. That should be June 30th, 2005. Revised. Mr. Eldridge, did you want to say anything about this? We talked about it a few weeks ago.
We have talked about it before, so I'm not sure how much you want me to talk about or just answer questions. I will apologize to you for scheduling a meeting on a cold night right after Christmas. And if we had any other options or choices, we would have done something different, but the tax levy has to be filed tomorrow, which is the very last day to do that, and because of the truth in taxation, we had to have the delay, so that there was no other options to schedule this meeting. So it all came about because the estimate that Joanne had given me on our assessed valuation increase changed after we'd had the truth in taxation, which sets the maximum amount. And she called me and said that an error had occurred and our value actually would be going up another 1.5%. So our policy is to keep the rate at $1.31 and match champagnes, and to do that meant we had to levy a higher amount. We had to go above what we had said in the truth in taxation earlier. So that's why we had to have a second one and a second public hearing tonight and a revised ordinance. So.
Any questions about that, Mr. Whalen?
As I understand it, Ron, we still keep the tax rate the same as it was before.
Yes, tax rate's going to stay the same at $1.31.
I'm not sure that there's any chance that the movement in the state legislature to increase the income tax and decrease the property tax would affect us. Do you see any movement there that Senator Winkle has proposed?
You know, we're a home rule city. I think there have been a number of bills introduced. From what I can gather in the paper from like Senator Winkle's bill, I don't think that would affect us because I think he's just talking about the school portion of the property tax and reducing that portion. So, you know, I suppose if somehow the bill was incorporated to provide more income tax money to the cities and in return for a trade-off of property tax, cities would probably not be opposed to that. They'd probably look at that fairly. But so I don't think that's going to have any impact on us other than to, I think, generally lower the pressure on property tax all the way around if we can lower, you know, what the school district is assessing. I mean, they're making up about 55% of the property tax, so it's really tough for the city of Urbana to really do anything to really effectively achieve, you know, some property tax reform that people truly see and have an effect on their tax bills.
Is there any way that the city could lend some support to that effort in the House and the Senate? I mean, by, you know, frequently we'll come out and oppose something that we or support something. I'm wondering if that, in this case, would our support, our vocalized support, in any way contribute to the success of that movement. I think that's you know, for ages, ever since I can remember, that when I first ran for the state legislature, that's been an effort. Was back even before that to make the tax levy more based on income tax rather than property tax for education in particular. But do you think that could? I'll ask the mayor that, I guess. Do you think that could have any effect, positive effect?
Well, it's hard to say whether Urbana would have any effect on the state legislature. You know, maybe we would be able to convince a couple of our local legislators or persuade them one way or another, but I think they're more apt to listen to us as individuals than the city council as a whole. And we may not, the risk of that is if there's not unanimity on the city council, then we send a very mixed message. And if your idea is to send a unified message, then that may not happen. And of course, I think it's way too early to tell. These bills are in their infancy, and as they move through the legislature, how they can change and how they can get compromised, or there will be compromises made with other bills, so you just have no idea how it's going to come out. So I think it's way too early to contemplate any kind of support of a specific bill at this time.
Those are two good points. I think you're right about the unanimity. I don't see us, anybody really strongly opposing this, and there's some political reasons, but I mean, otherwise, I think we would all certainly recognize that has a history of support.
Well, it's had maybe a history of support, but it's certainly had a history of being proposed and not being passed as well.
Yeah.
So there's obviously some opposition to it, maybe not as much in Champaign County as other counties throughout the state, but there have been ideas like this floated many, many times, and it's never been passed. So just have to watch. But I think, if there are any bills passed of that nature in the legislature and they do affect us and our tax levy, we'll do everything that we need to do to incorporate those changes into our local tax levy. So we'll just have to wait and see how it turns out.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Any other questions about this? Yes, Ms. Pat?
Just a comment and a question following up on Mr. Whalen's comment. The legislation that Senator Winkle is proposing right now is different from the legislation that he signed up to support before just a few months ago. And I think Mayor Satterthwaite is correct that it's a little early to, I think, to take a position for or against a particular bill because we don't know what's going to fly and what all the implications are of it. We do know a lot of people in our community are, particularly parents and educators, people involved in PTA, teachers, are very interested in this type of legislation, and there's a lot of support from people in our community and communities throughout the state for doing something to provide more secure funding for public schools and to reduce the reliance on property tax. So I think there's probably, I don't think it'd be hard to get unanimity behind that general sentiment, but probably we should be watching closely and following what's going on with this. I mean, you might remember in 1994, Dawn Clark Netsch ran for governor supporting this, and Governor Edgar defeated her on it, and then a year later turned around and supported it. And I think to some extent in the legislature there's been a little bit of movement that way too, which is why Senator Winkle has changed the legislation he's supporting. That leads to my question. That is this, Mayor Satterthwaite, is this something that the Illinois Municipal League is involved in at all? I realize it's primarily a school issue, but it does have an impact on cities.
Well,
do you know?
I've not heard that the Municipal League has taken a position on this in particular. Obviously, one of the things that the Municipal League has been very interested in is the local share of the income tax. Mm-hmm. And to the degree that that's, not jeopardized, I think the Municipal League would be supporting it. And so, there's, I don't know if it's mostly rumor or some trial balloons get floated over in Springfield every now and then to take away or to reduce the local share of the local government share of the income tax, which would, of course, be devastating to us as well as other municipalities, and we've lobbied very hard against that. We've been successful so far. But, to my knowledge, and I've served for years on the legislative committee, we've never really taken a look at the whole issue of income tax for property tax swap, and in the many forms that it has appeared so far. And there, I think that's one of the reasons is that there hasn't been a single concept that's been floated. It's a lot of different concepts. The the increase in the income tax varies, the amount of property tax release varies, the amount of new income, new revenue generated has varied over the years, and so it has, for a variety of reasons, I guess the municipal league hasn't weighed in on it. But that doesn't mean they won't if it becomes a serious issue. But to this date, it really hasn't been a serious issue. It's been an idea that's been floated around a lot, but it's been defeated a lot. And so we'll just have to see what happens this time around.
Thank you.
Okay, good, thank you.
Let's see, any other questions about this?
I would move that we accept the annual tax levy ordinance as revised.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderpersons Hayes,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Whalen.
Yes.
That motion carries with 4 ayes. Next is a revised resolution directing the Champaign County Clerk to abate the tax levy for the general corporate purpose for the year beginning July 1, 2004 and ending June 30th, 2005. Mr. Eldridge, do you have anything to add?
This is the same as before. There was just a slight change in the number there. But what this does is tell the county clerk, no matter what we levied in that ordinance you just passed, reduce that down such that the rate equals $1.31. And that's how we force the rate to come out to exactly that amount.
Okay, well,
Questions? If there are no questions, a motion would be in order.
Move approval.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderpersons Hayes, Pat,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Whalen.
yes.
Motion carries with 4 ayes. And finally, an ordinance fixing a time and place for a public hearing in connection with a proposed supplement and amendment to the redevelopment plan and related redevelopment projects for the downtown Urbana tax increment redevelopment project area number 2.
I'll do
Mr. Walden?
it. As you know, we've been moving forward with the process to extend the life of TIF 2 by 12 years. The state legislature has approved, given the city authorization to proceed. That process is a lengthy one in the TIF regulations, but it's been started. The Joint Review Board met a week and a half ago and passed the proposed amendments, approved the proposed amendments. Now the things that we must do are more procedural. One of the procedural things that we need to do is to establish a time and place for the public hearing. And this proposal is to establish that time and place as March 7th, 7:15 in these chambers. And there's a lot more information attached. Sorry if there's a book attached here, but this is the information that went to the Joint Review Board, which includes all of the information that we've put together to date on TIF 2.
March 7th, did you say? I move that we accept the date of March 7th for the time and place, or at least the time for a public hearing in connection with a proposed settlement and amendment to the redevelopment plan and related redevelopment projects for the downtown Urbana tax increment redevelopment project area number 2. Place, I don't know. Here? Let's include that, but this is the place for that.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? Mr. Hayes?
You gave a breakdown on the previous years, the interest rate was 5.25%.
I'm sorry.
If I'm not mistaken, the interest rate was 5.25% on the money,
You mean on the money that we earn on cash balances?
on the bond, I didn't want.
Well, depends.
Well, I think he's referring, Bruce, to the ordinance, on page 2 of the ordinance that lists the interest rate of 5.25% of the principal amounts for the years 2005 to 2013.
Okay, these are Okay, these are bonds that are outstanding for us that we pay. That's the amount of interest that we're paying, not the interest that we accrue on the cash balance. This is the amount that we're paying. And what we did is we refinanced and extended some of the principal that we had outstanding so that we could remain eligible for the sales tax reimbursement from the state. And that's why we did that. So there's sufficient revenues to retire that debt, and so that will go away in 2013.
Okay.
Any other questions about this? There are no other questions. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderpersons Hayes. Pat.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Whalen.
Yes.
That ordinance passes with 4 ayes, and there being no further business to come before us this evening in the special meeting, we stand adjourned. And
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and enjoy the rest of your holidays, and we'll be meeting again a week from today.
17 minutes.
Every meeting should go this long.
Is that a record?
Not quite a record.
Feels close.